Music is an indispensable part of humans and human societies. It is the very expression of human emotions and sentiments. At least this is how the president of Musica, Bice Osei-Kuffour, defines it in his own words.
Music has already been realized and recognized all over the world. It plays a very key role in the individual lives of everybody.
Music is so significant of a people that one musicologist and professor at the University of Ghana, Professor John Collins, is of the conviction that humanity and history are probably oblivious to the existence of any society where music didn't play an important role. Music runs through the very spectrum of every human endeavor, be it a newborn baby, finding love and marriage, recreational activities such as grouping to have a fresh palm wine right under a tree in the spirit of brotherhood, solidarity, and reflections, as that enjoyment will almost guarantee you to experience that concomitant effect of nodding to tunes of palm wine music.
Sasa brekuo na buna mope ai akoba madiache obrekue anayeno akoba madiache.
But in the quest to seek liberation, autonomy, or simply independence from colonialism and imperialism, it will be quite intriguing what specific role music will play. Picture yourself in a soothing panoramic view of the 50s as you are confronted by a play and counterplay of an indigenous people motivated by the aphorism of the Yes We Can self-governance as championed by its frontline men, the Big Says, with its de facto captain Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who at the climax of the struggle endeared himself with a pseudonym, or if you like, affectionately called Osajifo, as against a resilient colonial power reluctant to relinquish power to the people.
I want you all, those who have hats on, to take off your hats and let the band play our national anthem. And from now on, that national anthem is the national anthem of the Gogo to be played on all occasions.
In this fantasy of scenes now before you, although these scenes are tantamount to flashbacks for some sort of persons such as the incumbent and the former first gentleman of the land. In fact, the current president Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo was exactly 13 years old in 1957. Ex-President Rawlings, born in 1947, was 10 years old. Former President John Agyekum Kufuor was a teenager by then, precisely 19 years old, and the late President of the Republic, Professor John Atta Mills, may his soul rest in peace, was at same age as Nana Addo, 13 years old. Interestingly, former President John Mahama, in the language of religious zealots, will describe him as at then as still being in the realm of the spiritual, that is to say, he was yet to be born. But for those who were yet to be born, like the case of the former President John Mahama, or the entire team or crew of this research documentary on the role of music and how it shaped the struggle in favor of the local people, as well as those who were living witnesses at that time, the effect that Professor Edmund John Collins' depiction and recounter has on these two groups is the same: a vivid apprehension of the facts and fable relating to how crucial music played a role in the liberation of the Ghanaian people.
types of highlife music was the music of the dance bands, E.T. Mensah style, the tempos, and the music of the guitar bands, E.K. Nyami style. These were the two types of highlife at that time. And of course the guitar band music, like E.K. Nyami's music, was also linked to the concert party as well, you know, the comic theatrical groups that we had in Ghana. So basically, both of these styles of highlife, both the guitar band with the concert parties and the dance bands, were linked to the independence struggle. And if you take the case of the guitar bands, they were writing songs about independence, even during the independence struggle. I mean, most people know about E.K. Nyami. He's the most famous. But there was a group called the Axim Trio, which was a concert party that was operating in Ghana from the 1930s. And in the 1940s, they put on plays like Kwame Nkrumah is a Mighty Man. The Birth of Ghana was another one. They had these plays with highlife accompaniment. And in fact, the British were a bit disturbed. They even, I think, tried to, some of the comedians, they had them arrested or probed to find out what they were doing. Of course, this was around about 1948, after the shootings in Christiansburg. So by that time, it was too late for the British to do anything. There were lootings. The British lost their colonial nerve because they realized that the whole thing was triggered by soldiers, ex-servicemen, who had fought with the British against the Japanese. 46,000 servicemen fought against active service. So when they came back, they were asking for back pay, and that caused that problem. So, and you know, in the old days, before then, the British maybe they think they could keep Ghana suppressed because the Ghanaians wouldn't have access to sophisticated weapons. But once you've trained 46,000 men to use machine guns and bazookas and advanced weapons for those days, it's a different kettle of fish. But it was during that, just to give you one example, there was actually a highlife and a concert party was operating in Burma during the war with the Japanese in the 1940s. And I think it was led by a guy called Bob Vans. And some 6 Ghanaians formed a concert party, and they used what they call Konkoma highlife. So that's a different type of highlife. That's a highlife that's played mainly without too many Western instruments, a lot of drums. So you could even say that they had, when this group came back to Ghana after the war, they called themselves the Burma Trio because they fought in Burma. And then in 1948 they changed their name to the Ghana Trio. Now this is before the word had actually become the name for Ghana. So one of the first times that the word Ghana was used in Ghana, of course the word was invented by Dankwa, you know, I mean, he borrowed it from the Ghanaian Empire, the ancient Ghanaian Empire. But the first time, or one of the first times we ever hear of it being used in Ghana by Ghanaians or Gold Coast was in fact a musical group called the Axim Trio. And they were accompanied, that group was accompanied with highlife music. So that's a very early example. And then the Axim Trio, another concert party, was putting on plays in support of Nkrumah, like I mentioned. And then you get Bobobo music from the Volta region, the Pandu area. That was invented around about the same time, and the first Bobobo group was actually dedicated to Kwame Nkrumah. It was put together by a man called, I think he was a policeman called Mr. Nwatro, who created this group. So you could say that, in fact, I've never heard of a highlife song that ever said, we don't want independence, or please, Mr. British, delay our independence for 10 years or 100 years. Everybody wanted it now, so it affected all the musicians of the time, because the highlight musicians, the concert party actors, they were all relatively poor people. They were the urban masses, and the CPP was the party of the urban masses. So, in fact, Nkrumah didn't have to, at the beginning, he didn't have to go to the highlight musicians and say, please, can you write songs in favor of independence? They were doing it spontaneously because they were part of the uprising. So we have many examples of highlight musicians, highlight records, highlight plays, that is concert party plays, which were in favor of Nkrumah before he came fully to power.
Mezi, mezi, oh yeah, mezi me fancy oh, mezi, mezi me fancy bra.
Iti Mensa was running the tempos by 1948, so he became also, his style of highlight became associated with the CPP, and they used to play at rallies, CPP rallies. And then of course he brought out his famous song in 1957, Ghana Freedom Highlight, and so on. But by that time, the country was more or less independent. But even before independence, a lot of highlight musicians and concert party actors were in favor and spoke openly in favor of independence.
In probing to ascertain how music became a catalyst to mobilize the people in fighting for independence, it became incandescent that after the 1948 uprising or riots, which led to the killing of some unarmed ex-servicemen and is considered as the straw which broke the camel's back, the majority of the people were joined in a clamor, self-government now, and the cry for independence became more and more spontaneous. This led to the formation of many musical bands and popular highlife artists as E.K. Nyame, Kwame Mensah, and E.T. Mensah and his Tempos Band, who released many pro-independence records and played at CPP functions. The Tempos Band was originally formed in 1946 and behaved more as a German session group by some European soldiers who were stationed in the capital Accra. The man widely regarded as the king of highlife, Edmond Tete Mensah, or E.T. Mensah, meanwhile, joined in 1947. But some purported grievances led to a split, and later E.T. evolutionized this genre of highlife music to make it his own baby. It is believed at the prologue stages of the Tempos Band, E.T. Mensah financed the band through a pharmacy shop he owned at the time. Poco a poco, the Tempos Band endeared itself to the people of Ghana, the West African region, especially in Nigeria and Mali, and even earned international recognition for its scintillating performances. In fact, these performances led to E.T. Mensah being summoned by Louis Armstrong, an American jazz trumpeter, composer and singer, to have a performance with the local champion in 1957. Ni Achem Kote was a member of the Tempos Band.
Tempos Band was formed in early days. I didn't know the time they started, they formed Tempos Band. But I joined Tempos Band in late 1953, right down through 1954. And I learned so many musicians past Tempos Band, which by then I was a schoolboy. Oh, well, in those days, I wasn't married. So I had a chance to play with E.T. Mensah. But I will say that I wasn't the rare drummer in the Tempos Band. There was somebody in the Tempos Band called Tom Tom. That is the name everybody knew. He was the sole drummer of the Tempos Band. But I only assisted him when he's going to sing. Tempos Band was playing everywhere, in the nightclubs, broadcasting, playing everywhere, nightclubs, and mostly by then the CPP was on. So Tempos Band had a chance to play all the CPP dances. And if you can recall, E.T. Mensah made a song about Nkrumah. Oh, Nkrumah le Oklopone, which means Nkrumah is an eagle
The Temples Band released many songs. For instance, the song Ghana We Now Have Freedom has the independence denotation.
Ghana, land of freedom, toils of the brave and the sweat of the labor, toils of the brave which have brought results, toils of the brave and the sweat of the labor, toils of the brave which have brought results.
It's very great that day at the Independence Square. People are dancing, singing. They love the music in the song.
The song really symbolizes the saying of Kwame Nkrumah, at long last, the battle is ended.
With these, motivation was consolidated and there was a sense of unity, togetherness and solidarity to achieving a common goal, which is the struggle for independence. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah himself loved the idea of the political orientation of the musicians and sanctioned assistance to the Temples Band. Dos Ajefo believed the songs united the people beyond tribal segregations and affiliations. The quest to condescendingly acquaint oneself with what role music played in the liberation era, the contributory statements of legendary musicians such as Bob Pinodo and Jeju Blay Ambole cannot be an exaggeration. So what has Mr. Ambole and Mr. Pinodo got to tell us?
During the era of the great Dos Ajefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the motivation in music was so vibrant because Dos Ajefo showed that to relay information to the people, music plays a very vital role into it. So there were bands. Even before the independence, there were E.T. Masons, and they also separated into becoming Black Beats and Ramblers and all that.
We were playing high life, authentic high life, not this modern ones. We're playing authentic high life. Dance band music. Yes, I took part in dance band music. could remember very vivid that one of the bands called Broadway Dance Band composed a song entitled Nkuzin, and it goes like this: Pananam, 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 pananam.
So, what can the younger generation, who are the major culprits of changing that kind of high life, which was the darling of the aged, into what they audaciously call hip life, got to tell us? Vice Osei-Kuffour is the president of Musica.
In the history of our music industry, traditional music still accounts for the most numbers, because traditional music is part of us. During our derbes, during our festivals, they still resonate, they are still available. I think this question will become relevant in the sense that there's a strong global music industry force that is forcing a lot of Western music on our countries and our different, different musical origins and stuff like that. But by and large, the traditional music of our country has still kept our culture and our tradition. I mean, if you go to any function, like a funeral, you will see how, and I mean a proper funeral, which is being organized the Ghanaian way based on the culture of that particular area that the person who it is. Or if you go to a typical house, we still have the traditional music elements upholding the tradition and the culture of the people. And for me, by and large, I think the traditional music has kept up the game. Except that there's been too much pressure on and demand on modernization and globalization that we must take conscious efforts to make traditional music a part and parcel of our every activity. So in this instance, then you can be pushing for more playing of traditional music, even on our media airwaves, because it is us.
On the 6th of March, Ghana was declared an independent state.
At long last, the battle has ended. And thus, Ghana, your beloved country, is free forever.
Music indeed played an instrumental role in the friction which espoused between the British and the indigenous people. Music was important for nation building and cohesion, and the ingenuity of the legendary past musicians even made it the more lovely. Their expertise helped mobilize the people and shape the great matter of the people to a common goal, the struggle for independence. On the 6th of March, Ghana was declared an independent state, and music indeed played an instrumental role in the friction which espoused between the British and the indigenous people. Music was important for nation building and cohesion, and the ingenuity of the legendary past musicians even made it the more lovely. Their expertise helped mobilize the people and shape the great matter of the people to a common goal, the struggle for independence.
Soils of the great which have brought results.